Have you ever wondered who you were in a past life? Well, today on the podcast, I'm covering this topic. It's so popular, and so many people want to know, well, who was I? And how many lives have I had? And who do I choose to incarnate with? So today we're going to talk about that. But I also want to let you know for a trigger warning, I am mentioning losing a child on the podcast and reference to a past life. But otherwise, this is something that I feel is very important when it comes to who are we actually learning lessons with. So today we are diving into it. So stay tuned. Welcome to Spiritual and Ambitious. I'm your host, Whitney McNeill. I'm a certified medium and spiritual teacher, and I help spiritual and ambitious souls just like you live your life purpose through your career and attract abundance by connecting into your intuition and spirit guides. Let's get spiritual and ambitious. Welcome to another episode of Spiritual and Ambitious. I'm your host, Whitney McNeill, and today we're going to be talking about who you were in a past life. Now, I can't tell you, you will have to talk to your spirit guides and go on that journey. But we're going to talk about past lives and who you incarnate with and all those types of things. But before we get started, I would love for you to subscribe, share this episode with a friend. And you know that I love hearing from you over on Instagram. I've also pulled some cards for today's episode as well. And I pulled them ahead of time because when I've been recording these episodes, you'll hear the shuffle. And I thought, I'm just going to go ahead and shuffle the cards before the episode. Guess what I pulled? I pulled the past life card. This is complete your unfinished business. So hello. Like this reminds me of karma. This reminds me of lessons that we are going to be talking about today. And then I also pulled 3 other cards and I'll share those messages as they come through in this episode. So my very first past life regression I did was so helpful. I did not know what was in store for me. I just sat there in this room. This woman came in and she helped guide me. And I saw 3 different past lives in one session. And we could only really spend a whole lot of time in one session, in one life. But I was aware of these others. And it was different because normally she would only see one person go to one past life. And my spirit was ready. Like, I got to know. So the first past life I remember going to was I was living in a cave, so the cave dwellings, and we have a lot of these out here in the Southwest. So I'm in Arizona, felt really connected to that. But at the time, I actually lived on the East Coast. So I thought that was interesting. But I always felt like Arizona was home, which is why I moved my entire family from the direction of my spirit guides over here to Sedona, Arizona. So with this past life, I was remembering that I had these abilities. I had the psychic connection. I had healing abilities, but I was an outcast from the rest of the group. And they kind of put me in exile. And I remember learning about that lesson. So because I know that's a past life, this is also a lesson that I was struggling with at that time when I was getting the past life regression. What's interesting is that then I moved to Ireland and I remember crying, just wailing, sad. And I had lost a child and it was as if someone had ripped this energy from me and it just felt awful. So this is something that was so deep within me that I could not stop crying. And with this lifetime, I recognized, okay, this is why I didn't want biological children in my current life. But in this session, I also saw something else that was really powerful. And it was a connection that I had with my dad. But what's super weird is that my dad was not my dad in that lifetime. My dad was a partner for me in that lifetime, which gives you like all the creeps, right? But knowing that we incarnate with people in different times, in different roles to learn different things. And as I continued to develop my own practice, I started doing past life regressions for other people. And it's amazing because I have had people on my table. I no longer do this, but I'll tell you that with a caveat. I no longer do this, but when I used to, some people would speak in different languages and they did not know that language. Like without the past life regression, they would not have been able to speak that language. And some people will go into a current past memory, so current life past memory, and then some will go into several different lifetimes. I remember so many profound experiences, especially with one client who came in and had a estranged relationship with a family member. And when she was coming in to get the past life connections, it took her a while to get into a specific life that she knew would be really hard for her. And when she did, and she healed a cord in that lifetime, after the session, within 2 weeks, that estranged family member reached out. And what's been really interesting to see those connections. So that person had incarnated with her in that past life. And because they worked on some of the cords and the energy in that past life, it also helped her now. I call it the domino effect. If we can find and go into past lives where the source point is of an issue or cords or a problem, and we can work through and heal that in the past life, it's this domino effect that trickles down and affects the current life scenarios, which can be really interesting. I had mentioned that I used to do these sessions on the phone and in person. I no longer do those, but what I have done is professionally recorded a 90-minute past life experience. And the only way you can get this is if you pay in full for my program for intuitive languages. You'll get my past life journey bonus where you can listen to this over and over, remove cords, help healing. And I'll drop the link to my program for intuitive languages in the show notes over at messengerofspirit.com/4INTL. So I'll put that in the show notes. So let's talk a little bit about past lives. How many do we have? I have not received the answer for this because it's unique to each individual and each person. And when I have talked about how many past lives I have not received a numeric answer. It's almost as if it does not matter, Whitney. That is not part of the focus here. That's not the point. We need to move forward and knowing that this is where it is. Because sometimes we get focused on, is this my last life? I get that where we're thinking, I don't want to come back here again. Like, is this it? And when we say, is this my last life? It's not. If you're saying it is, it's not. And also, if we're hoping it is, it's not, because there's more stuff to do there. And as a spirit, we choose to grow and learn. So it's really challenging to say that this would be the last life, because who knows how you're going to feel as you move forward and progress in spirit. So how many lifetimes do you have? I have gotten numbers for other people, but it's different for each person. What I will say is normally a spirit does not incarnate in the person's lifetime. So here's an example. If you have a grandfather that passes into spirit, normally they will not choose to reincarnate until at least you have passed. So most of the time you can talk to your grandparents in spirit. Sometimes there are faster reincarnations. Most of the time it is a longer journey where they get to choose. So can I give you an average? Nope. It's up to the soul. It's up to the spirit. But most of the time that energy, when you have passed on into spirit, it will take a longer amount of time before you choose to reincarnate again, but not always, because especially with children, if you have a child that hasn't been able to come to this world through miscarriage or something else, oftentimes I will see that child try to come back through very quickly. And sometimes this happens in other capacities as well, but most of the time it's children will try to incarnate faster. And not all. Some are just, I just wanted to have this experience, or I needed to come in and help my mom have this experience for whatever reason. But that would be, let's say, an exception to the rule. Now, animals in spirit, I've seen them reincarnate faster if they choose to. And animals are a little bit different. I'll talk about animals in an upcoming episode. So let's move on to incarnations. We choose when to incarnate. I truly believe that we choose our families and who we incarnate with. Most of the time, our family members, we will have had past lives with. And some of those people we've had past lives with, we still have cords. We still haven't healed certain lessons. We have contracts with one another to heal these things. While some family members we do choose to incarnate with are friends, like helpful sidekicks. They're like, hey, I'm on this journey with you. So it depends on the roles. And if you haven't healed certain things with one another, you will continue to reincarnate with this person in different roles in different ways until you work your stuff out. So let's say that you were horrible to somebody, centuries ago, right? And you will continue to incarnate with this person most of the time to help work that out. So perhaps you have to trade lives where it balances out the karma, and then you're both trying to still work on some things as you're moving and flowing. So this is another reason why some people feel really connected to some people in their family, and they do not feel connected to some people in their family. Of course, this isn't taking into an account how the person is acting and interacting and behaving in this lifetime. I'm just talking about the actual connection to a person. Now, sometimes with people, we feel like, I know you, but it's not always like a good, I know you. So use your intuition and talk to your spirit guides about, do I need to interact with this person, create a friendship or connection or relationship? Or is this place where we don't need to do this anymore? We've already been around together. I don't need to do this. This happens a lot with romantic relationships where somebody will come in and you get to choose, do I want to have the same experience with you or not? Or perhaps you're able to heal some things too. So karma factors into play where you're balancing out the energy, but also when there is a wounding, when there is something that's an imbalance, we create cords. And I'm going to talk about cords when we come back after this quick break. As a professional psychic medium, I've done tens of thousands of readings, but I felt a call to move more fully into teaching intuition. But I still get so many requests about doing readings. So while I don't do readings anymore, I have brought in some very trusted colleagues who are now available for live 1-hour readings on Zoom. If you would like to book your psychic medium reading, go to messengerofspirit.com/appointments to see our available readers and schedule your Zoom reading today. Thanks for hanging in there with me. We're talking about past lives and who you were in a past life here on the Spiritual and Ambitious podcast. And let's talk about cords. Cords develop when there's an imbalance. When I have done past life regressions before for people and walked them through an experience, there's an option to remove cords. And some people will not remove the cord because they think it's healthy. Any cord that's there is stemming from an imbalance, an unhealthy connection. We do not need cords. So if you could think about our energy, and I have my fists up together. So if you're watching YouTube, you can see me. And if you're listening in the podcast app, just imagine I've got two fists together. What happens is we should be able to interact wholly and completely with these two fists. Our fingers can interlace, we can connect with one another, but then when we're done, our energy can come back into place and we're these little balls of light. We don't need cords. Now, if you see my fist and now you see a finger kind of touching the other, this is a cord and it develops, and it's almost like a parasitic kind of connection, which we don't love, right? Nobody likes that. So with that, somebody's draining the other some way. So someone's trying to siphon off power, siphon off energy, trying to get that connection. So you always want to remove cords. This happens even when the relationship looks healthy in this lifetime. So you might say, I love my daughter, I love my son, I love my parents. I don't want to remove that cord. Removing the cord doesn't mean you will not have a connection with them. It means that you will remove that unhealthy connection with them and that you can still operate, but you should be able to operate in your own energy capacity without utilizing somebody else's energy or without somebody else utilizing your energy. So you can be just you. That's something that's really important. And that's what I love in my past life journey experience bonus for 4 intuitive languages, where when you are journeying and you're visiting past lives, you will see somebody. And when you see somebody in a past life, you'll recognize their spirit. When you recognize their spirit, you can ask, who are you in my current lifetime? And sometimes this person does not exist in the current lifetime, and sometimes it does. And then you can go through some steps to remove the cords, which is really important. And it doesn't mean that those cords will be removed right away. This is something that you can set your intention towards as you are healing. So really, the ultimate goal here is to balance out the karma and also balance out and remove the cords. Now, people can incarnate, and I've referred to people before as someone that you have karma with, or a soulmate. Soulmates are lighter connections, they're friendlier connections with people, kind of like a sidekick, a spiritual sidekick. And this can be a friend, it can be a family member. And then you can have a twin flame relationship as well, which I'm going to talk about in an upcoming episode. So I don't want to get too far into it, but those relationships can be quite challenging, but also can be quite beneficial as well. So recognize that when you come into this lifetime, you're choosing your scenario, and you're also here to heal, which is really important. So you choose your family. And then as you are here, you get to choose again. So you choose your family, who you're born into, who help raise you when you're younger. But as you move into adulthood, you get to choose your friends who become family as well. So you get to choose. So we have these differences, and who you were in a past life can dictate the lessons that you're learning now. Oftentimes I see people here, their purpose is to really get in touch with their light, get in touch with who they are, get in touch with their energy, but are afraid to talk about their spiritual abilities, talk about their intuition, talk about their healing abilities, because they were shunned, shamed in a past life. For me, I was exiled in a previous lifetime. For you, that might be really hard. What I want you to hear is that you chose to reincarnate again for the same lesson, and you haven't learned it yet. So you tried in a previous lifetime to access your abilities, and maybe you even used your abilities. This day and age, you're here again to use your abilities, and know that you're in a new lifetime, and that what happened in the previous isn't necessarily going to happen in this lifetime. So you're being called for a reason. You're listening to this podcast for a reason. And knowing that you most likely already have those abilities that you had in a previous lifetime, they're just dormant. They're lying dormant in your energy now. And maybe you've unlocked a little bit of them, but it's time to unlock them even more. The more that you pay attention, bring awareness, the more that you feel into who you are, and that you know that you have this knowing, you know you're being led to a specific topic of healing, a topic of intuition, a topic of spirit guides for a reason, this is your time to shine. So I hope that you take my free Spirit Guide Masterclass, messengerspirit.com/class. And I hope that you join my program so that you can get this special past life journey bonus. I want to share some messages here with you. The first card I have here is the Protector Guide. And I really like this card for today because this is an old ancient time. And you can see the old ancient times, and this might take you back to a past life. So it could be in that medieval time or something else. And this is really, it's time to set boundaries with someone. So what I would encourage you to do, because the first card that came out here was the past lives, complete your unfinished business. There's somebody in your life right now that perhaps you're ignoring that you need to finish that unfinished business with. And your higher self knows your life path and all the past lives you've been in. So if you need a little extra help as to exploring your past lives, call in your higher self. Your higher self says, you're listening to this for a reason. Your purpose is calling. You have done this in a previous lifetime before. You just need for it to come through and unlock. And if you want my help with that, I hope to see you inside the program. The last card is the Angels card. We've seen this already this month. You are supported. Divine intervention is at play. So these are the cards here as we're talking about past lives. And you're here in March listening. So we also have Sunday episodes only in March for the energy of the week. Make sure to check those out. Tell me what you think of this podcast over on Instagram. I'd love for you to drop me a 5-star review. And I will be back with a brand new episode every Wednesday. Until then, here's to staying spiritual and ambitious. Thanks so much for listening to this episode. And if you loved it, would you please share it with a friend? I would also love your review and a reminder to subscribe so you never miss an episode. You can find me at messengerspirit.com, and you can take the 4 Intuitive Languages quiz and find show notes there too. If you want to connect on YouTube, Facebook, or Instagram, you can find me at Messenger of Spirit. I'll meet you right here next week. Here's to staying spiritual and ambitious.
This podcast is part of the Sound Advice FM network. Sound Advice FM. Women's voices amplified.